Testing, testing. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends. My name is Daryl, and I am your MC for today. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the Asian Civilizations Museum for our talk that is held in conjunction with the Batik Nonia's Three Generations of Art and Entrepreneurship special exhibition that is ongoing at the Peranakan Museum. We would like to thank White and Case for their generous support of this exhibition. So today, we are very happy to have with us three amazing and trailblazing batik makers from Indonesia. First, we have Kamanita, fashion designer and batik maker who continues to champion batik and Arashi Shibori textiles. Made in a Jakarta workshop that she inherited from her grandmother, the celebrated Indonesian composer and batik maker Ibu Sud. Next up, we have Widianti Wijaya, who comes from a lineage of three generations of batik makers in Kenenguni, which is where she continues her grandfather Wisuchun's design legacy in the workshop that he established, while exploring her own artistic voice through new works. And also joining us online via Zoom is Insana Habibi, founder of Limaran Batik Tenun Sutera and El Ketua, where she produces capsule collections of one-of-a-kind pieces made in collaboration with workshops in places like Jakarta, Cirebon, Pekalongan, and Surakarta. And also on stage will be the moderators for tonight's session and co-curators for the Batik Nonia's exhibition, Peter Lee. So Peter is author of Sarung Kebaya, Peranakan Fashion in an Interconnected World, 1500 to 1900, and co-author of Port Cities, Multicultural Emporiums of Asia, 1500 to 1900. He is also the founding curator of NUS Baba House and host of the Mark of Empire on CNA. So without further ado, let me first invite our moderator, Peter, up on stage to provide a brief introduction for tonight's talk.
That's like a talk show music. Good evening, everybody. Just a little short intro. Of course, this event is in conjunction with Batik Nonias, and the exhibition highlights the work of women and generations of female batik makers. We end the exhibition with a display of batiks by some of the powerhouses of Indonesian batik making, some powerful female women batik makers. And when we first mooted the idea, somebody said, like, what, you want to start World War III or what? You know, with all these amazing, stellar personalities. But no, I think everybody loves batik, and the passion, I think, brings them all together in this show. The emphasis has been on a neglected area of batik history, and that is the contribution of women. But we also mustn't forget, right, Kamanita and Widianti, that men also were very much involved in the business. But of course, in the 20th century especially, I think it has been well noted that, especially in Pekalongan and even in Jakarta, that women were helmed batik making. And this is sort of the tribute we want to pay to this history. One of the interesting points that we had in a previous talk was the idea that, the emotional side of batik making. And when we think of women's history, we are able to access this part of its history that we are so not in touch with. And Dr. Muhammadun, who was here in our previous event, spoke about how in the process of batik making, so the men were involved in the dyeing, but the ladies did the fine drawing and chanting work. And that if you look at how high quality some of this drawing is, you cannot be in a terrible mood to make batik. And you need to be almost in this meditative state, in a trance, to create so much beauty, and you have to set aside your negative emotions. And Dr. Muhammadun emphasized how for the pembatik or the artisans, it was a way of achieving a certain kind of happiness as well. To make batik is a deeply emotional process, and it's a way that they found solace through all their daily hardships. And so, you know, all these, the works we see here are a tribute to all these women who found happiness and made beauty for us to all to enjoy. So on that note, I'd like to invite our lovely, wonderful speakers. May we have Widyanti Wijaya, please. Yeah. And also, may we have Kamanita here to join me on stage. And also Mr. Rashid.
My name is Rashikin.
Rashikin, who will help us interpret for Widyanti. So let's all have a seat. Welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. We will, I think, start with Insana Habibi, who is cannot be here in person. She had a last-minute need to fly off for her son's graduation. Hello, Insana. I think you are in Hamburg.
No, I'm in Munich.
Oh, Munich at the moment.
Yes,
Good morning,
at the moment.
guten Morgen.
Guten Tag.
Guten
this
Tag.
Is 1 p.m.
Oh, it's already
yes.
afternoon. So hello
Yes,
from all of us.
Hello. Yes.
Anyway,
oh, wow.
I thought what we would do is share the slides that we have of your work, and if you could talk us through what you do, right, as a first introduction. So next slide. So Insana,
yeah.
so
Yes, please.
Please tell me how, how did you get into batik making? I mean, in your case, it's not a kind of something that came down from your family.
Yes. Okay, let me introduce you. Hi, everybody here. I'm so glad that I can join you for the special event. Even far away from Singapore, is about 14 hours from Singapore. And because of the tradition, the technology, we can make it today. So I open with my speech with lovely face. I am architect. I love to make everything nice on earth. And I began with, first of all, I never thought that I'm gonna be one of the batik maker or fine art batik producer or composer. It was begin with my architecture domain, where I built a lot of villas in Pecatu that time, 2004, 2006. Pecatu Bali was nothing there. And I bought a lot of artwork for interior. So even though after the 2004, where's the bomb Bali, the first bomb Bali, was still easy to find a nice old batik textile, or even the tenun or the songket. Not now. Then after that, batik was gone for a while. The collection, the old collection, which is, I was sad, and I am thinking about why, yeah. And then I'm saying, I was looking for, of course, painting for all the interior of the villas, but batik, when I hang a batik, even new batiks or the old, especially the old antique batik, it seems that the feeling you have, the the vibe you have of the room or the house is making different. You feel like there is a magic there. You feel like it's just a good vibe. It's a positive vibe. That's why I began with on batik creation.
But
Peter?
how did you start actually going about to make this? I mean,
Mhm.
without the benefit of a family heritage in batik making. I mean,
Oh yeah. I was starting very with zero. I that was not that time wasn't given infrastructure from Bandung to Pekalongan or either from Bandung to Cirebon. I spent hours for days and stay over in Pekalongan. And that time there was no hotel, properly hotel. I mean, I really start studying everything from scratch, all the batik process from the draft drawing until the dyeing process. So, do you think that way, or it's none from my family? It was a heritage. That's correct, but some of my family is a collector of batik, antique batik. So probably also, yeah, probably my grandma was a Chinese, but she was always loved batik. If I was small, if I came to her house and I opened the old cabinet from her cabinet, and I see, oh my goodness, it's just like I don't know, it's a magical thing. My heart is contacted to all those batik. That's probably also the soul is hanging on for the batik.
right. So then you started. I understand that you make certain things in different towns. Some elements of your batiks are made in Pekalongan, sometimes in Cirebon.
Yes,
You worked with different
yes.
producers and all. Can you move to the next slide also maybe?
Hmm.
So you produce kain panjang and selendang
Yes,
with from all these makers, and you were selling them in Jakarta, right?
yes. Most of our clients are in Jakarta or outside the country. So actually, this is the piece of art. It's not just a batik. It takes you long to get this piece of art. And today is really difficult to find really skilled people to support me uh, because of the modern life.
So if I were to define your style, it's sort of combining influences from the Pekalongan style, and of course some
Yes,
of Central Javanese, Sogan batiks as well. And you
yes,
seem to love like very intensely uh, crowded, and very fine Isen work.
uh,
And it must have
background.
been really hard to control, going back and forth and all that. But you produced only small collections at a time, is what I understand, for your
Yes, you're
customers.
right.
Yeah. Can we
So
look at some more slides?
excuse me.
Oh, I'm
Yes.
just moving the slides as well.
Mhm.
So, I mean, and you would only sell them privately, right? Am I right? You would have special exhibitions. I mean, you don't sell your pieces in any of in a retail kind of scenario, right? You had special events to sell them. Is that right?
Okay. Yeah, okay. Let me explain to you. Because of the limitation of the um, volume of my creation, I couldn't open a store. It's
How
too
many
limited.
pieces? How many pieces will
So
you make at each
at that
collection?
time, when the workshop was still compact and still, I mean, they were still young, yeah, not like today. I can produce a year only maximum if they're really good between 50 and 70 only
15, one
for
five,
a year. No,
one
no,
five,
50,
50.
50, yeah, 50. And I could only join a too big exhibition to display my creation, to sell my creation. And one is Yayasan Batik Indonesia, a very famous one, the exhibition worldwide. And second in Adiwastra. Otherwise, I opened privately in Bima Sena Club that time with all my clients, my loyal clients. Not because I don't want to open a store, because the limitation of the volume of my creation,
Right. Can
batik
we
creation.
move the slides to share? So anyway, these
Mhm.
are your displays at the
Yes.
your private shows.
And now this is the display where I was joining Limaran Tenun, Batik Tenun Sutra was joining the Yayasan Batik Indonesia. We'll come again in end of July this year until 3rd of August. I'll be joining these two.
Yeah. Anyway, I wonder, as a female entrepreneur just starting on your own, how did the market receive you? How did how what
And
kind of
you know what,
was
Peter? I was not thinking that complicated way. I was thinking for my own interior support for my villas. That's all. Uh, So actually, when I produced batik, I was not thinking to sell as a kind or cloth or a selendang or stolas. I was thinking only for my interiors. How do you call that? Element.
I see. So they're
To
like
for
hangings. Would you say they are
Yeah,
like
like hangings.
I see.
Yes, they're like hangings. Yeah, and from that point, one of my colleagues said to me, "Hey, Ibu Insana, why don't you join also Indonesian Yayasan Batik? You should do that because your creation is one of a kind." And I said, let me think. And then I entered the first exhibition was in Adiwastra in Jakarta, Jakarta JCC. I forgot the long last name. And then the response was um, amazing. I mean, my batik was in 20 minutes sold out.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank
Must not have
you.
been easy, but can we just share some more slides? The next one, just to see, um, like examples of your work. So it's
Oh yeah.
and the next one, yeah. So they're all really big pieces. They work as hangings, they work as kain, and they work as selendang. Is that right?
Yes,
And the
correct.
next one,
That was a sarong selendang, and that is also sarong selendang.
right? And
Don't.
so I think you mentioned until before COVID, it was still possible to get finally to work with your collaborators to make this fine level of batik. But after COVID, you mentioned that you faced huge problems in production.
Let me explain to you this situation. Thank God, during the COVID, I never lay off my artisan. I still making or producing the batik, fine art batik of Limanan batik, but their rotation, they come not every day to the workshop, but they come every week, twice or once. But the
Where was the
difficulties
workshop?
is when they get
Yeah. Where
in
was the
Jakarta,
workshop?
the workshop was in Pekalongan or is in Pekalongan and also in Cirebon. Solo is for the time being until now is not easy because they cannot catch up easily. My batik is more, it's a batik, a pakeman, but it's strong with European touch, European color. So that's why Solo cannot catch up easily and faster than Pekalongan or Cirebon. Yeah, and then during the COVID, when they work at home, I have a really problem because they were so relaxed. They work Nothing has happened. No one rush, and in the end, the collection is becoming less and less, but better because they have no stress and nothing. But during the COVID situation, it was also not easy for them to just waiting for the salary from but as a batik artisan. So they open a warung in front of their house. They open anything that they can sell to earn more money. Um, because the money what they receive from me is not enough. Even I don't cut anything their salary, but for survive in every village, it's not easy in the COVID. COVID meaning for them is um, less moving, less money. So now I'm facing a problem again to get them really work every day from 8 to 3. They don't want anymore. They just want to be a home as a seller or as a jualan di warung. Or while they have time, then they using the time for as a batik maker. So this situation, this COVID, turned all the situation from nothing to from zero to something that really not we I didn't have the plan to do that, that they have to work at home. No, they really want to work at home. They don't want to work in the community again. This is my challenging for the time being. And they're getting older, and spirit to get to be a batik artisan is weak and weaker. I don't know what happened. Yeah,
You
I
also
don't know.
mentioned some had passed away, right? Some of the
Yes,
masters you worked with.
yes, yes. One of the workshop, which is the finest lady. I mean, I work very good, most of them with the ladies. She passed away 12 years ago. Oh, lovely. She has a very good taste, and she can read all the. I make a blueprint normally. She can read, and she have also the taste what I want to make it. She has a taste. Even person or lady from village, but she has a taste like she learned from the, I don't know, magazine, or maybe her heritage or her family or her DNA came from the story from Dutch colonial time. I don't know. Anytime I said to them, anytime I said to her clearly what I want to have this creation, she got it very well. But she passed away.
Yeah. Can you
So sad.
explain what is happening in this group, this showing of
Oh
these?
yes, I was in Chicago Art Museum, one of the best museum for art in the world, and they enter me to see the batik makers today, because this museum has a collection more than 200 pieces, old batik collection. So the person, the gentleman with the white shirt, is the director of the Art Chicago. He came extra to see all my creation. Well, he amazed, but these centuries, this kind of fine batik art still given, he said.
No, that's amazing. Any more pictures?
And that's it. Me with the hot things. I mean, Pekalongan or Cirebon is extreme hot, extreme. So if you are in the workshop, you cannot use any AC. You
Yeah, my
cannot have
goodness.
when, yes, and that's
Is
I
that in
stand there.
Pekalongan?
Is that in Pekalongan? Yes, and that's where in the picture I stand that from 8 o'clock until 3 o'clock with 1 hour rest, 1 hour, how do you call that, pause. So how many hours I have to spend? Minimal 6 hours. I go, I went, I discuss, I work with them really from scratch until finish. The right one is second process. That's a die already, and they will work on the actually the right one. You if you don't make a further process, you can sell it. They are ready to sell, but as a limaran batik have a very complex and fine art pieces. So I process again for the further batik process is about from there, from the right position, you have to wait until that finish is another 3 or 4 months.
I see. So how long would each piece take for you?
It depends on the design. Let's say those right one is a still beginning. Even you can sell already. From that point until that finish, that will be another 4 months. And from zero until this right picture, it's 3 months minimum if all the teams are ready. Again, after COVID, you have a really problem not only to get together, to get the teamwork solid together, but also, I don't know, people with the artisan after COVID become more free, and you cannot paksa, you cannot, how do you call that?
Get them to commit to finish something in time.
No, cannot. They don't want. They just want to work. They just want to work what they want. So I have to follow them. Even I give them work, I give them everything. But well, I think this is a surrender work. Yeah, it's not only entrepreneur. It's being surrender to have your creation one of the best.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it has to come from your heart and your soul. Yeah.
No, thank you for sharing. Actually, we need to we've run out of time, but we really appreciate your help and introduction today. And I understand you have to leave, right? You're flying off to the US very shortly.
No, I still have another 30 minutes. It's all right. Or 15 minutes.
So if you can listen on to our next section.
Please.
But thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Insana Habibi. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Peter, thank you. I thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So moving on, now we introduce Widyanti Wijaya. Of course, we have her slides next as well. And this amazing work. Actually, one interesting point that when I talked about emotion, that one needs to have that you need to be on a certain level of calmness to make batik. But actually, as far as I know, you were very angry when you made this piece, right? So this is a very different emotion. So maybe as a starting point, could you tell us a bit about this wonderful work?
Pada waktu itu saya mengikuti peristiwa Ahok dari mulai sidang sampai akhirnya masuk ke penjara.
At that point of time, I was actually watching the trials of Ahok from the beginning till he was imprisoned.
Kemudian setelah itu kan Ahok masuk penjara, para fansnya Ahoknya itu kan mengadakan itu 1000 lilin untuk merasa bahwa ikut sedih karena Ahok masuk penjara.
There was a 1,000 candles vigil because Ahok went to prison.
Dan itu dilakukan di beberapa kota. Dan salah satunya adalah kota Semarang yang dekat dengan Pekalongan.
It was done in the various cities. One of the cities is Semarang, which is close to Pekalongan, where I was.
Pada waktu itu saya minta izin sama suami untuk datang ke Semarang, dan waktu itu diperbolehkan.
I asked permission from my husband to go to Semarang, and he allowed.
Tetapi pada hari H, saya tidak mendapatkan izin.
But in actual fact, I did not get the permission.
Ya, acaranya jam 6 sampai jam 5 sore tetap tidak dapat izin.
From 6 a.m. to 5 p.m., I still did not get the permission.
Kemudian saya marah sama suami, dan waktu itu kan saya marah ada di toko. Saya selain membatik, saya juga mempunyai toko. Jadi setelah jam 5 itu saya meninggalkan toko dan masuk ke tempat kerja saya.
I was also having a shop, so after 5 p.m. I was still angry, so I entered the working area.
Dan kemudian saya mulai mencoret-coret dan hasilnya ini.
And I started sketching, and this is the result.
How long you must have been working so furiously? I mean, how long did it take you to finish this?
Dari mulai menggambar, bukan pada waktu punya ide ya. Dari mulai saya menggambarkan pada kain selembar kain putih sampai akhirnya jadi, karena saya mengejar Ahok sebelum keluar dari Mako atau ulang tahunnya dia, saya kerjakan 8 bulan tanpa henti.
So from sketching on a white cloth all the way until Ahok's birthday, it took me around 8 months.
Tapi ternyata setelah 8 bulan selesai, pada saat saya mau menemui Ahok, saya nggak dapat kesempatan itu, sehingga akhirnya saya berikan jauh sesudah Ahok ulang tahun, tapi sebelum Ahok keluar dari penjara.
So I missed Ahok's birthday, so I gave this much later after Ahok's birthday.
Sebelum keluar dari penjara.
After he left prison.
So apparently this was hanging in his office.
Jadi ini tergantung.
Iya.
Yes, it was.
I think that's just an amazing story, and it's a picture of Ahok at the center, with Pao Kung, the Chinese judge, on the right. Huh? Oh yes, do you all know who Ahok is? Anyway, he was the governor of Jakarta. Thank you very much. Who had a lot of political problems, and ended up in jail. It was very controversial. He was also a rather controversial figure, very popular, but also very controversial. And anyway, there was a big drama, which I shouldn't comment on, but he ended up in jail, and this made Widyanti really upset. What year do you remember? Yeah, about 8 to 10 years ago. Yeah. So it's all about justice. So we have Pao Kung, the Chinese judge, on the right, and on the left is King Solomon. Yeah, and made with this feeling of injustice, right? Yeah. So can we move to the next slide? So Widyanti comes from the 3rd generation. Maybe if you could introduce us to your family.
Batik Wisucun itu dimulai dari kakek, yaitu Wisucun dan istrinya Kwe Chun Kiok Nio.
Okay, it started with my grandfather, Oi Siu Chun, and Kwe Chun Kiok.
Dimulai tahun 1925.
In 1925.
Kemudian pada generasi keduanya adalah papa, itu setelah kakek meninggal tahun 1976.
After 1976, when my grandfather passed away, it went on to my father.
Untuk papa dengan Mulyadi Wijaya atau Wika Mlong, dengan mama Istianti Setiono.
So Mulyadi Wijaya is my father, and Istianti Setiono is my mother.
Dan kemudian saya sendiri mulai menekuni batik itu tahun 2002, setelah papa meninggal.
In 2002, after my father passed away, I took over with my husband. Tio Purwonto.
Ya, itu suami saya, tapi dia tidak terjun dalam dunia batik.
But he is not totally involved in the batik production.
Can I just explain? So you also have a brother, right?
Iya, saya mempunyai kakak, tetapi ada wejangan dari orang tua, hanya boleh satu dalam tiap generasi.
So according to my father, can only one person only can take over.
Ya, hanya satu dalam tiap generasinya.
Each
But
generation.
he's not interested. Was he interested?
Bukan masalah berminat atau tidaknya, tetapi hanya satu yang boleh. Jadi harus memilih antara saya atau kakak.
So my parents have to choose between me and my brother.
Jadi kalau saya bekerja di dalam dunia batik, berarti kakak tidak boleh menyentuh dunia batik.
So if I am involved in the batik business, my brother cannot be involved.
I see. And each person had a role to play in the couple, right? So your grandfather did one thing and your grandmother and etc., right? Your grandfather did the dyeing, or could you explain the
Mereka melakukannya dengan pembagian tugas.
There's a division of duties.
Jadi kalau kakek itu lebih mengerjakan finishing dan pewarnaan.
My grandfather did the finishing and the coloring.
Kemudian kalau nenek lebih ke arah pembatikan, jadi mengurusi pembatik dan pecantingan.
Then my grandmother did the drawing and the designing.
Begitu juga untuk generasi kedua, papa dan mama, mereka melakukan hal yang sama, pembagian tugas yang seperti yang dilakukan oleh kakek dan nenek.
So the division of the duties is the same for my father and my mother.
Tetapi kemudian ketika saya pegang, karena saya sendiri, maka saya harus menguasai semuanya.
So when it comes to my turn, I did everything.
Ini adalah kakek nenek, foto sebelum mereka meninggal. Kakek
This is-
meninggal.
This is the photos before my grandfather passed away.
Ini sama.
This is the
Ini
same.
adalah salah satu karya nenek.
This is my grandmother's work of art.
Pada saat itu ada satu masa di mana nenek mencantumkan namanya sendiri untuk kain yang dibuat.
So at a point of time, my grandmother signed on the design that she drew.
Karena pada saat zaman itu wanita kalau membuat batik itu nama suami yang dicantumkan, bukan nama sendiri. Walaupun yang membuat perempuan, tetapi nama yang dicantumkan harus suami.
Because at that period of time, normally, even the designer is the wife, they will follow the husband's name. So this time around, my grandmother wrote her name.
Tetapi hanya berlangsung 2 tahun karena ternyata batik atas nama nenek nggak laku.
So it's only for 2 years because the designs that my grandmother signed didn't sell well.
Nah, tetapi sekarang batik yang atas nama Kwek Neti itu harganya lebih mahal daripada Uisucun. Iya.
So the name of the husband's name, my grandfather's name, when she signed using my grandfather's name, it is more popular and sells better than hers.
Enggak,
So hers sell better than her grandfather. I'm so sorry about that. Yeah.
bukan lebih mahal.
It sells more expensive. The price gets higher. So makin langka.
Karena hanya dibuat dalam 2 tahun, setelah itu berhenti total.
So because it's only available for 2 years, then after that stop totally.
apparently you were telling me, which I thought was fascinating, even his signature was signed by her.
Ya, walaupun semua yang dibuat atas nama Uisucun itu ditandatangani oleh nenek, tetapi pasar orang yang membeli itu tidak mengakui nama Kwek Neti.
So
Jadi walaupun yang membuat tanda tangan Uisucun atau Kwek Neti itu tetap nenek, tetapi yang atas nama Kwek Neti tidak diakui oleh orang-orang.
So even if it's drawn by my grandmother, it was not recognized by other people.
this is this.
Ya, ini tanda tangan Kwek Neti, ini Wisucun, padahal yang mengerjakan satu orang,
Even
tetapi yang lebih diakui adalah yang nama kakek.
so, even though there are two signatures and it's done by my grandmother, but my grandfather's name is more recognized.
Ini adalah salah satu karya atas nama nenek.
This is one of my grandmother's work of art.
Hmm. Ini adalah salah satu desain yang kita sebut dengan meraati. Meraati.
This is one of peacock designs by my grandmother.
Yang lahir, yang tumbuh itu karena permintaan seorang bupati di Pekalongan meminta desain kolaborasi antara batik Solo dengan batik Pekalongan.
So this is inspired by a request from a buyer who wants to combine batik Solo and batik Pekalongan.
The Bupati is the local head or the noble, the leading noble in Pekalongan, right?
Yes.
So this was commissioned by the kind of aristocratic family, and because they have to attend court functions and all that, they need sort of court batik to wear, right? So this is with the semen, with the merak and the Garuda wings is from the court design, combined with Pekalongan Kedunguni flowers.
Kemudian diberi nama Meraati. Ati itu heart.
Okay, so it's named the peacock heart. So heart is hati, so merak hati.
Ini papa yang sebagai generasi kedua.
This is the second generation, my father.
Mulai menggantikan kakek itu tahun 1976.
Replaced my grandfather in 1976.
Sebenarnya sih papa itu tidak semata-mata untuk datang menggantikan kakek. Jadi dipanggil pulang ke rumah itu karena anak yang dipersiapkan untuk meneruskan batik Wisucun meninggal.
My dad was not meant to take over the business, but he was called back home because the one that was trained to take over the business unfortunately passed away.
Dan ini tahun 2002 saya mulai mengambil alih batik setelah papa meninggal.
In 2002, I took over the business after my father passed away.
Sebenarnya gini, saya diminta untuk meneruskan batik itu bukan karena memang saya suka batik ya. Jadi awalnya adalah karena menggantikan posisi papa. Kan mama tidak bisa mengerjakan bagiannya papa. Jadi harus ada orang yang belajar untuk bagiannya papa sehingga menyelesaikan batik-batik yang sudah separuh jalan.
Initially, I was not interested in batik, but I have to take over my dad's roles because my mom was not able to take over my dad's role.
Ya.
This is mainly the dyeing, right?
Ya, jadi pertama yang saya pelajari bukan mencanting tetapi mewarnai batik.
So the first thing that I learned is not drawing, but more on dyeing the cloth.
And your father had a lot, your family had a lot of secret recipes, right? So you had to
Ya.
study all these secret dye
Pada
recipes.
waktu itu saya belajar bukan dari papa tetapi dari para pekerja.
I did not learn from my father directly, but it's from the workers. Yeah.
Ya, jadi caranya mereka tetap harus bekerja seperti biasa, kemudian saya mengamati.
So I observe when they do their work normally.
Dan ini pertama kali saya berkenalan dengan
This is when
Peter
we-
tahun 2005.
This is the first time I was introduced to Peter in 2005.
Ini adalah salah satu sampingan selain saya membatik.
Other than doing batik business, this is one of my other businesses.
Ini adalah satu momen di mana batik-batik yang salah atau batik-batik yang saya anggap cacat tidak boleh dikeluarkan, saya bakar pada saat saya finishing batik.
Okay, this picture shows me burning the batiks that I think is not suitable or not perfect. So when at this stage, I will burn the batiks.
How many do you burn all this time? Yeah.
Nggak tahu lagi, karena tiap kali saya anggap jelek dan tidak boleh keluar, maka secara diam-diam tanpa sepengetahuan pembatik dan yang lain, saya bakar.
So basically, I just translate what she said. So basically, she said that if she find the batik is not perfect, she will burn it in secret without telling the rest of the staff.
Ini adalah salah satu tempat workshop kami.
This is one of the workshops.
Jadi untuk pewarnaan biru, saya menggunakan matahari, dan kemudian yang sebelah kiri itulah quality control, saya pegang sendiri juga. Karena perintah dari mama, quality control tetap harus dipegang pribadi sendiri.
So the pictures on the right is me drying the blue dye, and then the one on the left is me touching the cloth, doing my own quality control based on the advice of my late mom.
Ini adalah salah satu karya kolaborasi saya dengan papa.
This is one of the work of art of me collaborating with my father.
Jadi pada saat papa meninggal, papa hanya mengerjakan bunga dan yang bagian warna hijau.
When my father passed away, before he passed away, he was just doing the flowers and the green parts.
Dan kemudian tahun 2006 saya menyelesaikan batik ini di saat mama memberikan izin saya untuk menuliskan nama Wisuchun pada kain yang saya buat.
So I finished this work in 2005, and after getting permission from my mom to sign Wisuchun on this batik.
Jadi batik pertama yang saya diperbolehkan menuliskan nama karena Wisuchun, karena sebelumnya adalah mama yang menulis. Walaupun 2002 sampai 2004 itu mama masih ada mama yang menuliskan, tapi setelah 2005 saya mulai diperbolehkan untuk menuliskan nama.
So from 2002 to 2004, my mother was the one who signed the Wisuchun name. Only in 2005 she gave me the permission to sign using the name, the Wisuchun.
So what is interesting is that although it's the patriarch's name, it was 3 generations of women in the family who signed the man's name, right?
Karena kan bagian finishing, bagian pembatikan itu kan dipegang oleh perempuan. Jadi pihak mama pun yang akhirnya menuliskan nama.
Because the finishing is done by the women, so that's why mom.
Bukan finishing, bagian pembatikan. Finishing kan
drawing. The drawing is done by my mom, so that's why she signed the name.
Dan ini adalah ketika setelah saya memberikan kain kepada Ahok, setelah Ahok keluar dari penjara, saya dipanggil ke rumahnya.
So after Ahok was released from prison, I was called to his house, and this is when I presented the batik to him. Yeah, the batik to him.
Dan bulan Juli depan, tanggal 25, saya akan mengadakan pameran yang ulang tahun Wisuchun yang ke-100.
So in 25 July, they are having an exhibition for Wisuchun's 100 years anniversary.
Ini adalah salah satu instalasi yang mungkin akan ditemui pada saat pameran.
This is part of the exhibition that you will see on the 25th of July.
Well, thank you very much. I think we better. Well, we are because of time. I think we'll move on and then have a little conversation after. So moving forward to dear Carmenita, can we share your slides? Yeah. Next slide, please. So maybe please tell us about this also incredible piece, because I was rather shocked or delighted also that it's actually made on a handloom sari.
So I started batik actually 1987. At that time, I was like not really open what I was doing. So I experienced in many fabric. At the end of the day, I don't know, I fall in love with sari batik. Not batik sari, but sari fabric, okay? Because sari fabric, I think you have the sides, which is called zari, like what Peter is wearing, what I'm wearing. So you can do many attractive motif with the different side of the sari. So I think that's why, but one sari at 7 meter, I cannot cut it, so I have to follow 7 meter doing the fabric in batik hand. No stem, I don't have stem. Because stem batik, betul kan, is very dirty. I don't have that dirty place. We do only with hand. So this is how I started the sari, and it's been going on almost 12 years. I have to go to, thanks to Peter, now he always get me these saris. So I have to go back and forth to India because I'm quite well known with the community of India that I developed batik in many saris from regions like Bangalore, Karnataka, around Calcutta, yeah, because they have best cotton and they have best silk. So I had a 4-time show in India, invited by the governor of Karnataka, by the Delhi governor, and around Bombay and all that, and I'm in love with them.
But also from my feeling is that you have a designer's eye in terms of your this pattern sense, and
I always play pattern. Gini, batik for me is not the motif, it's not the color, it's not the how big or small. But batik to me is the essence of technique doing batik. Still using wax, mau itu stem or chanting, ya, by hand. Chanting, yeah, you call it chanting, right? That's it, that's batik. Outside of that, it's not batik. It's totally, batik has to do with those terms.
Can we look at your next slide? So,
okay.
Yeah, you have this amazing history because your grandmother was Ibu Sud, who was a composer, batik maker. I mean, she was this powerhouse also in the Sukarno era. So please.
She's a truly artist. She's a truly artist. Look on the left side, 1957. She already dressed up like that, mix and match. Okay, but when you saw my picture with her, 1983, I was not really interested in doing batik because I saw out, kuno Indonesians say, kuno. I don't like batik. Out complicated. I don't like it. Something like that. But in that point, she said in that picture, I think my granddaughter would love very much to continue batik, and it did.
But how, there's this wonderful story that when President Sukarno started this Batik Indonesia, she co-opted your mother.
Batik at that time only a Javanese batik, right? Maybe rare Sumatra batik and all that. So Bung Karno said, why? Indonesia has many islands, many colors. Ibu Sud, why don't you make Indonesian batik?
How did they know each other?
Pardon?
How did they know each other?
Because they're good friends. They're very best friends. So then my grandma said, what sort of batik, Pak Karno? Any batik in color, not only black, sogan, blue,
go back
whatever.
So could you explain?
That's my grandma in the back of Bung Karno.
And then that's
and the right one was
Hajonegoro.
Yeah, but he was only 17 years old here.
So
he couldn't be the batikers, yeah,
right.
Kan? Yeah, everybody is a batiker. No, the mother has a beautiful batik factory in Solo. And my grandma always dyed the best color to her factory. So Ibu Sud bilang, ayo Om go, follow me to the istana, display your mom batiks.
So
gitu.
she started this combination of the soga brown colors with
That's
the
it.
Pekalongan
But she
colors,
make colorful.
right? So she's the one who started it.
She started the batik
she's not really
terang bulan,
recognized.
the concept from
Right.
Bung Karno. That's it.
But most people credit Hajanogoro.
Of course not. He
But-
was too young to do that.
She was like his mentor. Right?
Mentor. That's it. She even called my grandmother mommy. That's it.
This is the unrecognized part of batik history.
Well, Om Go declared that, but the rest of surrounding declared differently. I don't care. I don't care. But kasihan Pak Go. Nah, this was me, siapa Princess Akihito ya. Can you imagine? This is, I want to show this picture. This is about 1960, 61. We get off Japan 1948. Not
Yes.
45, of course 48, yeah, around. But in the 60, Bung Karno already invite the penjajah Jepang to his palace to see the Indonesian batik.
And that's your grandmother.
Yes, that's my grandmother. She's full of laughter.
Next picture.
Yes.
So that is her. Oh yeah, with
Yeah, Akito.
Princess
This is Hirohito,
Chiko.
daughter-in-law. Yeah, Hirohito was too old. So his son, Akihito, and the wife was invited by Bung Karno. And my grandmother was displaying her batik in the Istana. I think it's 1960 or 61. Gitu.
Next.
See how beautiful that time. Lihat Om Gul, see fun.
That's Gotik's one also.
Yeah. He was like 17, 18 years old at that time.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I have Pak Yop Ave in this picture, but he stole all the picture that was there. So I still keep one, but I'm looking for it. I couldn't find it.
Also, that during this period, this
Peter
was
C.
the-
Yeah,
the
one of the famous fashion designer at that time.
oh, Peter C. Yes.
Yes, there's not many designer at that time.
So your Ibu Sud made the batiks for Peter C.
Jadi anybody who buys Ibu Sud batik wants to make the top and all that, ask Peter to do
I
that.
see.
Yeah. So
Oh.
here's a.
Next.
Nah, this is my grandma. Shocking turquoise. This is not a good picture, but she combined pink and red, blue and all colors. That's why they call it terang bulan. I
So the
didn't have
terang bulan is the empty
Colorful.
center field in the middle, right? With
colorful.
the
This is
L-shaped border.
this is Javanese batik, right? But the color is today, today
Right.
color, very shocking color. You have some more? I think so.
Next, yes.
Nah, look at this. This is the influence actually from Sumatra and Javanese. Ada seperti pisang apa tuh?
Pisang
Pisang
Bali.
Bali, ya
Bali.
kan? And then you have the pasung, and then you have the side like Palembang. So she mixed things the way she wants to.
Pasong is the
Look,
two
at the color combination, ya kan?
sawtooth borders.
Tiba-tiba indigo and purple. On the right side, as I remember, it was Tampak Siring Palace was built by Bung Karno. It was done, and then she create batik Bali there on the side. It's actually when you see it, it's more Bali essence. Yeah, shocking pink and green, shocking whatever.
I mean, one thing I recognize is that she doesn't really fix to one particular style. She
No.
is like every piece just
If
very
you see my
spontaneous
batik,
and-
nothing is the same from one to the
so
other.
that's from your grandmother's
That's it.
influence. Next slide.
This
So
is my
come to you.
artwork. Yeah. All kinds of batik I've done. Some naive, some kids look, some serious, some whatever.
And
Move
your
on.
workshop is in Jakarta.
Yes, in Jakarta. Here on the side, on the left there, I have shibori work on the sides. Shibori is like
And yeah,
wearing
can you
also shibori on
tell
the
us
side.
about this?
This is nice shawl. I always reproduce and all the time reproduce.
But what is the kind of like furry?
The furry is okay. When you do jumputan, jumputan like what do you call jumputan? But not shibori. Shibori.
It's like shibori. Yeah.
Shibori, but you don't
Tie-dye.
take off the thread. You don't take off the beads. You leave it there. So since I know the color of the batik, I combine the thread into the color of the batik. See, sometimes it's like that. This is Indian motif, Jamnagar, if you notice. Yeah, Jamnagar, right? But I do everything on dots. Actually, it has red also, but I didn't picture it. Now, this is Kanta.
Yeah, this is
If
what
you
I
notice,
the,
this is
the
kanta.
kind of
Thread.
it's batik but made to look like
Look
a
like Kanta.
Bengal
Yeah, Bangwa.
style of embroidery called kanta.
So my mind goes to around the world where I can make
So also
even
kanta on
Kanta
the
on
left,
left. On the right side actually is the piece of itself before it was batik. It is a songket of Jambi.
Oh,
Okay?
I see.
Songket of Jambi. That's why you have like the kupu-kupu, you know.
Yes.
It's actually the gold thread, the gold thread.
So is that when you started to use not plain cloth? I mean, you use brocade like with the Indian saris,
Uh-huh.
with the zari. You
This one
started
first.
to use. This was your first
Yes.
attempt to use
Yes.
a non.
Then when I
plain white
saw
cloth.
sari, it could be better because I could
I
do
see.
it 7 meter. This one only 2 meter.
See.
You know, that's it.
Next. So your fashion.
My fashion line. So I'm playful with fabric in.
So this is all a shibori.
all shibori and arashi. Yeah. Anything to do with henna. See, this is like Jambi motif. Jambi has been gone a long time. Nobody do it anymore. So I came there on the invitation of the Madam of the Governor before, and then they start doing batik again, which is fun. This influenced by Timor, yeah. The motif is actually like ikat Timor, tenun Timor. So I developed the motif like that. This mix and match. I like to play. Nothing is the same, but the workers are the same.
Yeah, so you often save like these full lengths, like you make, I call like origami dresses. You don't cut them at all, right? So you,
I don't do pattern because I'm not graduated from fashion school. Mind you, I graduated from USF.
so that was a
Bachelor degree.
sari, right? Just
Yeah. So I like to do things that I don't depend on a pattern person. So I do my own draping. That's it. So that way you can move on. If you depend on one person, you have to depend. She work for you all the time. That's it. So
next.
anything I see I can do batik on, I do.
Yeah, the one on the right also has this
Yeah.
idea that you're just wrapping.
Just wrapping.
Holding it.
I don't need pattern. I don't need pattern. Now
Yeah, this is fun.
this is fun, right? Look.
Yeah.
Product design. I call this product design. Why? Because to me, motif cannot not always on a surface of fabric, but it can be a surface on a steel, on rubber, on whatever. This is my kind. I applied into airbrush. This is no sticky, no sticker.
Not to
How do you
stick
go?
on, yeah.
This everything is work on a
Sprayed onto the
airbrush.
car.
Yeah, airbrush. This is like a tribute now. Look, on rubber.
I thought the-
Stop here first. Okay.
Parang tires.
60 years of tires Gajah Tunggal, one of the biggest tire factory in Indonesia. Chinese family for over 70 years. He came to me, since you can do Mercedes, can you do our tires? We want to make a series of batik tires. Okay. I open up all this Google, I learn what is tire doing with any motif. You know, any tires kan motif different ya, the guratan. So if you see the parang, there's a clereng there. It has a lot to do with brake, water, side brake, everything. I learned from there. So I gave 2 motifs to the factory in Thailand. So they choose the parang clereng. Works well.
Yeah.
Gitu.
So wonderful. Next one.
This is only the difference. Now this one, this is during COVID. I thought I'm broke. Nobody's working on COVID to get money at that time. Impossible. I don't know, but like there's always a guardian angel next to me. All of a sudden, bicycle become booming in COVID. Remember, no motor, no mobile, nothing, no car, nothing. And then this Mr. Hendrik, who owns the biggest bicycle factory in Southeast Asia, which is United Bike, called me up again. Hey, Karma, can you do us favor? Favor? Of course we pay you. We want you to do airbrush on our batik, about almost 200 sepeda. One thing I remember, where can I find all those people who do airbrush for me? Everybody gone after COVID. Nobody knows where they are, right? Even my batikers gone home. They never come back until 3 years after COVID. So I said, Pak Henry, can you wait another 10 days? The most I find my people. I got them. So I said, I rent a garage of friend's house in Bandung. And then United Bike keeps sending the body of this. So I have to give like maybe 20 pieces of my cloth so they can airbrush every detail.
We're so
This is-
tempted to try and borrow one of these for the.
This
to be
bike goes to
presented.
G20, goes to ITB Berlin, goes everywhere like the car. I'm proud because there's a Carmanita sign in every bike. So that's me. Nothing I can see I cannot do. I have to do everything I see. If possible, anything I love to. So long it's made. Kalau this one is not batik doing, of course, but the motive is batik. So applicate.
Next
That's-
one.
Now, this is Eco. This work with apa ya? Econit. Econit is German apa? Kadin ya, rumah dagang, Chamber of Commerce from Germany. They had once a project in Indonesia to absorb all this sampah apa ya? Sampah. Waste ya, waste from vegetable, supermarket, pasar, public pasar, whatever is smelly and all that. So they do the recycling all this become color. And they asked me to do this project. I don't imagine, you have to dye the color from these filthy places. Not only supermarket, but public market, Pasar Kembangan, Solo, everything. They pull everything. And then they do this stuff for dyeing, and it turns out like this. So nothing waste becomes color.
Next, I think we have. Oh no, that was it.
No.
So then this
No,
other
that's-
project.
This is my fun also. So what are you doing? I don't know. I'm just doing a show, a theme of red and white. So I do red and white. Nothing serious, but anything can be done. This is for 17th of August. I don't remember what year.
But you also do. I mean, you had these training workshops, right? You were telling me. So
Before, yes, but not now anymore. yeah.
I think that maybe. And what's the next?
See, I have no pattern. I have
Yeah.
only drapering.
So
I
that
don't
was
do
this-
pattern.
That was the last slide. So
Yes.
yeah, thank you for this sharing. I think just a couple of questions. I mean, for Vidyanti, I mean, how did you feel? Firstly, that you were a woman, but you had to sign your grandfather's name, and that. But finally, I know in this upcoming exhibition, you are releasing your own artistic expression. I mean, you're letting go your own artistic expression and making your own batiks, right?
Sampai sekarang pun saya masih menggunakan nama Wisujun, bukan menggunakan nama pribadi. Tapi ada beberapa batik yang memang saya memakai nama sendiri, itu yang keluar pakem. Jadi kalau batik yang menggunakan pakem Wisujun, saya masih menggunakan nama Wisujun. Tapi kalau yang kreasi saya baru pakai nama Wiki Melian.
So if it's my design, I will sign using my name. But if it's my father's design, I will sign using my father's name. Wisujun's name.
Begini, kalau saya mengerjakan sesuai pakem Wisujun, saya akan menggunakan nama Wisujun.
If I use design for Wisujun, yeah.
So if it's the design is a traditional Wisujun design, you use Wisujun's name. But if it's outside of that classic family branding style, you put your own name.
Ya.
Her mom promised her if she continue the batik, she must follow her mom. Ya kan? But I'm sure she loves to have her own. So you can sign your own. Trust me.
Tetapi tetapi saya harus tetap menggunakan nama Wisujun supaya dia tidak hilang. Ya.
So I will still use the name of Wisujun so that it will remain in the circulation. Because the name is very big.
So are your children interested?
Hingga saat ini 2 anak saya tidak ada yang berminat untuk terjun ke batik.
Yeah, both my children at this point of time are not interested in the batik industry.
Karena gini, dari yang pernah saya katakan, kalau mereka mau mengerjakan bukan, kalau mereka mau meneruskan batik Wisucun, minimal dia harus membuat sama seperti yang saya buat.
So if they want to continue, they have to do exactly what I was doing.
Maybe they'll have to wait a while and grow up first. They're still quite young, right? 20, you said. They were children when I met them in 04.
Anak-anak saya sekarang 25 dan 20.
Now my children are 20 and 25.
I have another question. So early on, Insana mentioned she could do 50 to 70 pieces, but I think your production is far smaller.
Saya hanya bisa membuat 20 kain setahun.
I can only make like 20 pieces a year.
And there's a long waiting list. How long?
Pada zaman mama itu mungkin hanya setahun 2 tahun.
And my mother's time is 1 or 2 years of waiting time.
Tetapi kalau saya teorinya mengatakan 3 tahun, tetapi nanti faktanya lebih. Karena ada salah satu customer yang ada di sini, dia mendapat 7 tahun.
So basically, on theory, I will give a 3 years waiting list. Yeah, but then I have one customer here in the audience who have to wait up to 7 years.
Please, customer, raise your hand. Who is waiting? Have you got it yet? Still waiting.
Kayaknya itu mungkin bisa mengatakan 7 tahun.
Yeah. So that is a 7-year wait.
But is that also because your number of pembatik is less also? Yeah.
Ya. Karena kami mengerjakan kan per bagian. Jadi satu orang itu mengerjakan bagian. Jadi sepertinya kalau dia mengerjakan bunga, yang ini mengerjakan daun itu sendiri-sendiri. Jadi spesialisasi.
So each worker has their own specialization. So for example, one worker will only concentrate on the flowers, and then another worker will only do leaves. Yeah, so the production will be slower by that.
Tapi permasalahan yang paling penting kalau kemudian nanti setelah hampir selesai, kemudian saya menyatakan saya nggak suka dengan batik itu, batik berarti dimulai dari awal lagi.
Yeah. So it will all come back to me, and I will do the quality control. If I don't like it, they have to restart. Yeah. From zero, yes.
Burn again.
Ya, harus dibakar.
Jadi biasanya kemudian saya membedakan kalau batik yang cacat dengan batik yang gagal. Batik yang lubang atau sobek itu bukan karena kesalahan saya. Jadi saya tidak membakarnya, tapi saya menisik.
So if there are two categories of batik that is not fit for selling. One, if for example, if it's torn or there's a hole, which is not my fault, I'll fix it.
Ya, jadi karena proses produksi kainnya tidak kuat, kemudian dia akan seratnya putus, dia lubang. Itu berarti bukan karena human error, tapi karena kekuatan kain.
Because it depends on the cloth. So sometimes during production, the cloth can have holes or got torn. So that is not human error, but it's basically because of the machine. Material, yes.
Tetapi kalau batik itu jelek karena kesalahan manusia, jadi yang saya kerjakan, berarti saya harus tanggung jawab membuat ulang.
So if the design is ugly, it's because of human error, then they have to redo the batik.
Atau bakar.
Yeah, to burn.
But okay, what was interesting is Carmenita has a very different point on this perfection.
Yes, yes. This lady, little spot, she bother so much. I said, hey, the more spots your batik is, the more understand people this is handmade. Nothing can be perfect. Betul. So, like you said, like the waxing it, something wrong with it, leave it be. Otherwise, it's printing. Right? the more defect you have there, that's handmade. Otherwise, you don't see the art of it. Leave it be.
So yeah, maybe we should open up for anyone who has questions as well.
So maybe we can
Usonya
just take a
selamat datang.
quick question or
Ed.
two since we're already a bit pressed for time. So yeah, maybe just one or two questions, short ones. Anyone? Gentleman in blue shirt.
Salam Bu Widianti. Saya ingin menyatakan kalau pantang larang atau adat dalam contohnya tu membakar ataupun passing on to only women in the family. Adakah itu adat di keluarga Bu Widianti sahaja ataupun meluas di semua pembuatan batik-batik?
I translate the question first. Yeah, Baby is asking whether it's a tradition to burn or is it only her family's tradition?
Sorry, can we just take another question first, then we answer both at the same time? Any other questions? No? Then, okay.
Gini, keputusan untuk membakar itu sebenarnya ada dari saya sendiri.
The decision to burn the cloth is my own decision.
Karena saya memikirkan gini, saya menginginkan batik yang diterima oleh customer itu adalah batik yang bagus.
I want the customer to be satisfied with my batik, which is a good piece of batik.
Kalau mengatakan itu tradisi keluarga, saya nggak bisa mengatakan karena gini, pada waktu saya mengambil alih tahun 2002, saya melihat tidak ada batik yang rusak di dalam lemari papa. Sedangkan saya memikirkan dari mulai tahun 1976 sampai tahun 2002, masa papa nggak pernah membuat batik rusak. Lalu seandainya ada batik rusak itu kemana? Berarti kan berarti bisa dikatakan papa juga melakukan hal itu, tetapi tidak ada yang tahu. Dan saya membakar batik itu pun dari mulai 2002 itu nggak ada yang tahu, sampai hingga beberapa tahun kemarin ketika saya membuat video dan saya mengungkapkan bahwa batik yang yang gagal itu saya bakar, baru mulai itu terbuka.
So from my father's time, when I inherited the business from my father, when I opened the cupboard, I don't notice any batik that is spoiled. It's all very perfect. So I was wondering what happened to the one that's not perfect. So, so probably she thought that her father would have burned the batik. So as a result, she does the same thing. And she does this in secret only until last year when she did a video that people discovered that she's been burning batik that is not perfect.
Ketika itu saya membuka rahasia bahwa saya membakar batik itu ketika saya memulai membuat buku, bahwa saya mengatakan di dalam buku yang saya buat itu batik yang saya anggap itu tidak lolos, maka batik itu harus dimusnahkan.
So basically, I revealed the secret while I was writing the book, where those batik that did not pass the quality control of my quality control, I will destroy it.
Okay, one last question.
Kim Lian, you'll be having an exhibition sometime in July. I'm just wondering that exhibition, will any of your works be on sale?
Pada saat pameran itu saya hanya memamerkan batik karena tidak boleh ada transaksi jual beli di dalam pameran itu.
Okay, in that exhibition, it's only an exhibition. The transactions are not allowed in that exhibition.
Dalam pameran itu saya ingin memperkenalkan bahwa batik ini batik Wisucun. Bagi mereka yang sudah tahu batik, belum tentu mengetahui secara dalam. Saya menceritakan semua yang untuk pameran itu dan mengenalkan bagi mereka yang tidak tahu batik Wisucun.
So the idea of the exhibition is actually to introduce Wisuchun's batik, and those people who are interested in batik, who knows batik, to know about Wisuchun's batik in detail.
Okay. Yeah, one more question. Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Have a question for each maker. For Carmenita, could you share if any of your artisans had any responses once you started introducing the 7-meter long saris to them? Like, did they have any feedback?